Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Bench. I am Rocco Granado from InLacrosseWeTrust.com, and with me, as usual, from LaxPhilly.com is Gary Grube. Gary, how you doing today? 24 hours, or should I say 27 hours, 15 minutes before the start of the NLL Champions Cup.
I'm excited. I've been waiting, and the bye week didn't do anything to curb me. I don't know about other people, but I'm excited, and anticipation's in the air.
Yeah, the bye week last week, the only thing it did was allow me to watch more of the NCAA college lacrosse and maybe some MLL. But also have two big announcements. One of them you know about. First of all, on June 2nd, game number 2, which is in Rochester, 1 week from Saturday, we will have the coin flip. And what I mean is the coin flip between the San Diego Seals and the Philadelphia Wings. Now, the winner of the coin flip will decide whether or not they want the number 1 pick in the expansion draft, which will happen sometime in July, or the number 1 pick in the NLL entry draft, which is, I believe, on September 17th. I believe that's a Monday there. So if you win the coin flip, you can't have the number 1 on both. You get the number 1 either in the expansion or the NLL entry draft. So San Diego and Philly are going to pick 1-2. It's just a matter of who's going to want the number 1 in the expansion, and the other gets the number 1 in the NLL entry draft. That's happening June 2nd. Also, Gary, I just confirmed this earlier today. You and I will be doing a live show on Facebook on our page Behind the Bench on June 2nd prior to the Saskatchewan Rush Rochester Nighthawk game number 2. And that will be taking place at the Stock Exchange. John Terragino, who runs the Stock Exchange restaurant there, got in touch with me today and said he will have no problem with us doing our show like we did a few years ago when Rochester played Calgary. That's
awesome news.
In game 2. So spread the word out there, Rush Nation. You're coming into Rochester. Come to the Stock Exchange. We said this before. Great food, great drinks, great friends. You get to meet everybody, the Rochester faithful. Meet myself. I mean, I'm from Philly, so you'll get the little insight on some of the wing stuff and everything, and it's just a great time. We're going to have Kelvin on, known as Hulk Rush. He will be coming on air with us as well. So it's really going to be fun. The time is yet to be determined because I'm not sure what time he's opening up the doors. So we're going to try to get there a little bit earlier so we could at least set up. So Rush Nation, we want you there at the Stock Exchange. It's across from the Radisson Hotel in downtown Rochester. So that just happened earlier today, Gary. We got approval for that. So we'll be doing that on our Behind the Bench page.
Good news. Good news.
Now, on to the...
See us all. Come see us.
Yes. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, you and I, we have a lot of fun talking lacrosse, and, we're no experts or anything like that, but we just have, a great time. Now, the biggest news is, obviously, Game 1 tomorrow night in Saskatchewan, the Rochester Nighthawks against the Saskatchewan Rush. It's their 4th consecutive appearance in the title game, and their 5th overall since 2012. I mean, they lost to Rochester in 2012, and then, they won it twice in a row, lost last year, and now they're back in it again. This is a team of veterans right now, Gary, with McIntosh and Church and Mark Matthews. They all have that championship experience. You have Evan Kirk in net. You have one of the toughest defenses out there. What does Rochester need to do to break that, to try to get under their skin? Now, Rochester has beaten them twice in the regular season. Once in Saskatchewan. But as
they have, and, it comes down to a lot of precision. They're going to have to be, they've been good all year on faceoffs, and Jake Withers is going to have to be awesome on faceoffs. They're going to have to get as many possessions as they can. They're going to have to play dead solid defense, and Matt Vince is going to have to be the Matt Vince of old. And one of the reasons why he's the three-time NLL champion and five-time goaltender of the year. And, they put together that, and everything lines up. You're looking at not just 2 wins in the year, maybe 3 and 4 wins in the year.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that they have going for them is their transition game. Both teams have an excellent transition. And
and both coaches are very, very smart, very, very sly.
Yes.
Now, the interesting thing is Jeremy Thompson didn't have the best of years on faceoffs. He was with 53.9% this year. But he was second in the league for total loose balls at 164. So, what you lose in one, you gain in the other.
Right.
Whereas Jake Withers at 66.9% as a rookie, which is just off the charts unbelievable. And wow, doesn't that make a lot of us eat crow from the draft going, what in the hell is Kurt Stiers doing?
Yeah.
Taking Withers instead of Courier. Well, here we are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's...
Withers was also 5th in the NLL for total loose balls at 148. So he wasn't that far behind. So, you got rookie against veteran, but I think at this stage, I don't think that matters. As much as I'd like to think that Saskatchewan is dominant, on paper, these teams match up almost evenly. Both have solid goaltending. Both are known for really stingy defenses that don't make a lot of mistakes. Both teams don't take a lot of penalties. Both teams have firepower out the wazoo offensively. And both teams can dominate when they need to and when they are given opportunities to.
Right. Now, I'm looking at the goalie leaders here, okay? Evan Kirk has a 10.82 goals against average and a 77.7 save percentage. Matt Vince, 11.37, so that's only a half a goal higher, but he has a 78.2% save percentage.
He's second for save percentage in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he's right there. I mean, this is going to be an unbelievable...
The one thing that I see is Matt Vince has had occasion to wander a little bit, and Angus Goodleaf has come in and picked up the pieces. Will Matt Vince be, I'm sure he will be, but beyond the question being, will he be 100% focused at all time, or will he be able to be knocked off his game, as has been done in the past?
Yeah, I mean...
And if Saskatchewan can find a way to do it in Game 1, you better believe they'll be doing it in Game 2.
Right, and knowing Matt Vince and watching him play in the playoffs, he goes to another level. I haven't seen him, except for that Toronto series, get rattled in the cage.
Well, I've seen it twice against Toronto. Once when he was with Orlando still. And Mr. Root fall in there on him with Toronto playing him. And also the Rochester-Toronto thing from 2015.
Team, yeah. Well, when he was with Orlando, that's...
If I wasn't there live to see it, I would still never believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be classic. It really is. I mean, yeah, watch it on NLL TV, Twitter. I think CBS Sports Network is carrying it. If you live in the areas, you need to get there. If you live in Saskatchewan.
Well, they have SaskTel, so they'll be able to get it live on TV as well.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you're at, watch it. I mean, the Rochester has a discount, a package going on right now. I'm not sure if it's still going, but when I got my tickets, you get a premium seat, which is first level, the 100 section, and a T-shirt for $26. So I went ahead and I snagged that deal, which was pretty good.
There's tickets for $10 on Groupon, so
yeah,
there's no excuse to not make the game.
No, well, the $10 ones are up in the 200 section, but you figure the first level seat, few rows from the floor, normally go for like $25 to begin with. Plus, you're getting a T-shirt that will fit you. Don't want you to think that, okay, what size is this going to be? Is it going to fit over my left arm? But yeah, this is a series that's, I think it's going to be a classic one. It really is. I mean, I don't know if anybody is really going to sweep this series. I mean, I would like to see somebody lift the cup up in Rochester. I really would, because we're going to be there. But I mean, I don't know. It's really going to depend on how Saskatchewan does in game one, and vice versa. Yeah, I mean, Rochester could go in there and steal one from them, from Saskatchewan again, and then come home and have that home crowd behind them, and hey, who knows? Steal a second one. Maybe lightning strikes twice, the way it did against them last year. When they went up against Georgia. But there is just a lot out there. There's a lot of depth out there on the rosters. You're looking at Robert Church, Chris Corbeil. Big question mark is Dan Dawson, whether or not he's going to dress and play.
If they have Curtis Knight in the lineup, I don't see him going in the lineup.
Right, and that's the whole thing. What do you do? It's you have him there. It's they traded for him. Now he's a free agent at the end of the year. You got him for the playoff run. But yet there's nothing being.
But they did that also when Curtis Knight was out.
True.
They picked Dan Dawson at that point. Curtis Knight came back, and Dawson's been playing left press box.
Yeah, and see, my whole thing is, okay, if you sign somebody like that, you got to find a spot for him.
No, I don't think so.
Well,
I think it's in case of you're not going to upset the lineup this way.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get more out of Curtis Knight than you are out of Dan Dawson in this lineup.
And then, for me, I would have to sit back and wonder what the hell is going through Dan Dawson's mind. He's like, okay, you traded for me, now what? I'm sitting...
Well, they picked him up, but they picked him up for a song. They really didn't give up anything.
Right.
So, if you need him, he's there. He's a rent-a gun.
Yeah.
If need be, if the first game doesn't go as planned, you'll see him in game two. If the first game goes the way they expect it to, you're going to see him sitting with us.
Well, we're going to be in regular seats, so I don't know where he'll be, but...
He'll be up in his box, but that's a whole other thing. But
yeah,
what I'm trying to say is you won't be seeing him on the floor.
No. You might see him sitting on the bench while they warm up, or, being...
He'll be out there for the warm-ups, and then it'll be the game-time decision.
Yeah.
But you won't see that. You won't see it. If Saskatchewan plays game one the way they can, you won't see him in game two. And I doubt highly you'll see him in game one.
Yeah.
Because it's neither or. And the offense seems to work. It seems to click better with Knight and Matthews doing all the other stuff.
Yeah, that's the scary part with what they have.
When you think about it, right? You have McIntosh, Keenan, Church, Cornwall. You have all these people as well as Mark Matthews. That's only one ball, right?
Yeah. The last time I checked, that's what they play with is just the one.
Let alone let's not forget Jeff Shatler in there as well, right?
Yeah, who's going for another title himself. I mean, how sweet would it be for him to win the title after what Calgary did.
Right.
He already got, somewhat revenge on them, we'll say, for, winning the game. But, now it's here. And the last time he went up against Rochester, they fell in that mini game. When Rochester three-peated. Mm-hmm. So there's a little revenge factor, you can say, there for him. And, we mentioned revenge factor for Saskatchewan because they've lost twice to Rochester this year. But
I think they're more concerned that they lost 2 games to Georgia last year.
Yeah.
I think that's more on their minds than the 2 they lost during the year. Because the season's now erased.
Season's erased, but it's got to be somewhere in their mind, though. Okay, that this team has beaten them twice. Once on their home floor. So it's got to. I'm not saying that it's going to affect them, but I'm pretty sure that maybe in the coach's speech, or maybe, whether it's Mark Matthews or Ben McIntosh or one of the other assistant captains, they may come out and say, listen, this team came into our building before and beat us during the regular season. That's in the past. Let's, now let's show why this is our house and, take care of business. But I think what's going to happen is for Rochester to win it, Matt Vince has to stand on his head. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the rush defense has to play stronger. Not that they're already not strong to begin with, in front of Evan Kirk. Because I've seen Evan Kirk when he played for when the Wings were here in Philadelphia and when he played for New England. He's another type of goalie that if you get into his head, he's shot. So the defense really has to bolster themselves down because I don't think they want to put in Tyler Carlson.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
I think we go to the press box and get their third string out before him.
Yeah, it's just, they need, Evan Kirk has proven himself this year. But, goalies do have bad games, and both these goaltenders, when they have bad games, they get thrown off their games. And then they have to go to their backups. Rochester has a little more confidence in their backup than Saskatchewan has in theirs. I think we can agree on that one.
Yeah.
But as far as this series, I don't know. It's going to be tough. It really is. If Withers could even go 50% on the face-offs, I think that gives Rochester a good advantage. He can't let Thompson control the face-offs altogether. Cannot. If that happens...
No, I don't think that's much of a problem, though. I think, if anything, it's got to be on Thompson to make sure that Withers doesn't control him.
Yeah. What I'm trying to find Withers' percentage on the face-offs. I was looking at the whole, what was it? The whole stat, the stat line altogether for that they have. Let me see what. No, it's not there. But you said Thompson was what, 59% this year?
53%, I believe.
53.
53.9%.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, it's dangerous.
Jake Withers at 66.9%. is dominant.
There you go.
Oof. I think it's on Jeremy Thompson to be a little bit more proactive and make sure that Jake Withers doesn't run rampant.
66% to 53%. Wow. I didn't think he was that strong this year in the face-offs. I knew he was over 50%, but I didn't think he was at, like, those numbers.
Oh, some of the games he was 26-4. It was ridiculous, some of the games.
That's unbelievable.
But it comes down to the two things. It comes down to goaltending, it comes down to face-off men, which is always 1-2 on how to build a team anyways.
Yeah, and they have, you look at the depth on both these teams, on the scoring. You're looking at, McIntosh, Church, Matthews, everything. Who else? You got Dinsdale, you got Shatler, you got Keenan. And you're also going to have the battle of the Hossiks.
Yeah.
Which ought to be, kind of interesting to see who outdoes the other. They're not going to be on the floor at the same time, most likely, but, we'll have them, having their own little side bet, we'll say, against each other. So somebody's going to be hoisting that cup, and somebody's going to have a party, and the other brother's going to come over and just want to look at it, and that's it.
Yeah.
But then you go, with their defense, and you're looking at Rubish, Messenger, you mentioned Matt Hossick, Ryan Dilks. It's just nonstop all the way through their lineup, and you have the same thing with Rochester as well. On their end, you got Scott Campbell on defense, who's also great on transition. He can run the ball down the floor. Rookie Eric Fennell, Josh Currier, Brad Gillies on transition, Graham Hossick on defense.
Even Frank Brown has added something in the last couple of games. They've all come to light. It took everybody to get there.
Yeah, and this was a team that was 2-6 at one point, and on a massive.
And of course, and we've even overlooked, just the Cody Jamieson factor too, right?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even
him on his shoulders and away he goes.
Yeah, which he can very well do himself without any problem whatsoever. But the big story on Rochester's end is they have a young team, but the rookies are playing like veterans.
Well, you also have veteran things there with Joe Resiteritz also, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to have just Austin Shanks out for himself.
Oh no.
Joe Resiteritz with Austin Shanks, as well as Cody Jamieson, and you got Kyle Jackson into the mix as well. So there's an awful lot of firepower.
Yeah, and that
position-wise, Brad Gillies has been having one heck of a second half.
Yeah, and that's the scary part of it. You mentioned.
Let alone you have. Again, we talked about Jake Withers. You got Corey Vitarelli.
Yep.
You also have, you talked about Eric Fennell and Josh Currier. So there's all kinds of things going on there. Now, we've talked to death about Saskatchewan's team and their roster and all the firepower that's there. And it's amazing. You take a look, and no wonder this team is struggling because they're all here. When you look at Mark Matthews, Curtis Knight, Ryan Keenan, Matthew Dinsdale we hadn't talked about either. Robert Church. Then you look at even transition with Chris Corbeil, Jeff Cornwall. It goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, you match these teams up on paper. I think it's an even matchup. It really is. The depth on both ends, the goaltending, transition, defense, offense, rookie-wise, it's just.
I think the big thing is that literally the two teams that are supposed to be here are here.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh my God, how did they ever wind up in the finals? Both teams that should be here are here. The best in the East against the best in the West. It's that simple.
Well, if we
and in my eyes, by at least a head above the other teams in their respective divisions.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning of the year, Gary, if you remember, when we were doing one of our shows, there was a time when both teams were 2-0, and they were both scoring close to 20 goals a game. And we said, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if both these teams kept pace with each other up until they face each other in the regular season? That would be kind of, an interesting matchup." And, we said that, probably no doubt that Saskatchewan will be the favorite to go to the Champions Cup. And I said, with the way Rochester's been playing, it won't surprise me one bit if they make their way back right now. Then they go ahead and they lose 6 in a row. And I had my doubts at that point. It looked like 6 in a row, downward spiral. Meanwhile, Saskatchewan is, putting up 15 goals a game, like it's nothing. And we're thinking, okay, trade deadline's going to be coming soon, and is Rochester going to be selling? What's going to happen? All of a sudden, the 8 games going, they got 10 to go. They win, I think it was 8 out of their last 10 to get a 10-8 record, which was just unbelievable the way they just pulled it together at that point. I mean, now we have the two teams that we talked about at the beginning of the year facing each other for the Champions Cup.
Well, don't forget that we thought that Saskatchewan was going to, everybody thought that Saskatchewan was going to walk over everybody.
Yeah.
Then there was that intimate, crazy game against Buffalo, in which they were romping, absolutely destroying Buffalo. And then, as it appeared a couple of times this year, got bored. And all of a sudden, we saw chinks in the armor.
Yeah.
And Buffalo wound up coming back and winning, I believe it was in overtime.
Yeah.
To an absolute stunned lacrosse world. I know it was a stunned household over here.
Yeah, I mean, nobody expected that to happen. You're watching Saskatchewan run all over Buffalo and figuring, okay, second half's going to come out, it's even going to be more of a cakewalk. And for some reason, they forgot to come out of the locker room. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, and they were doing uncharacteristic things. And they're, chasing and doing all kinds of things that's not in their game plan. I would imagine that Keenan would have lost a little more hair in that game.
Yeah. I think he grew hair and then lost it. That's how it was going. And you look at the path that these teams took to get here. Yeah. New England, who beat Rochester 3 times this year during the regular season. They go, twice in Rochester they beat them. They go to Rochester for the playoffs. Rochester beats them 15-11. We all know about Calgary getting through Colorado. That was nothing. Then Rochester hangs on to beat Georgia in what was a defensive game through and through, where they hold on and win 9-8. And then Saskatchewan, basically they hold on and they beat Calgary 15-13. So there's not one team here that has blown out a team in their playoff matchups. Saskatchewan's a lot fresher. They've only played 1 game. Rochester, on the other hand, has played 2.
Yeah.
So that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Depends on how you look at it. They keep the momentum going. Everything's still fine as far in. Saskatchewan plays a game. After having a week off, they play a game. Now they have another week off. Does that build up a little bit of rust? Get your timing off, or does that give you more time to heal?
I think it's a bit of both. I think both teams needed to heal. The rust factor, both teams have the same thing. They've both been off just as long. So I don't think that's going to be a big thing. And at this stage of the year, I don't think it's going to be a big issue. Same thing as having a bye week, regular season, right?
Right. Well, no, I'm not talking about just having off last week. I'm looking at how Saskatchewan had the bye week for the first round of the playoffs, played a week, now off again. So they were off 2 of the last 3 weeks during the playoffs. Whereas Rochester just played straight through, had last week off, and that's it. That's where I was looking at, Saskatchewan off this week, played the week before, and off the other week, for round 1. That's where I was looking at, is that a good thing or, a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing, actually. Myself, I think that these teams needed rest. So, I don't see any downside to it now. The only downside that I've seen with the time off is that whatever electricity the league had,
right,
they lost it with a week off. Definitely the intrigue was knocked down some. Me personally, I wouldn't have put a bye week in there. I would have gone right into it. The other thing also is with the summer stuff coming up, you don't want this thing going into half of the other season. And that's been happening a lot. So meanwhile, you have MLL already in full swing. MSL starts this week. And a lot of the main players are in this final. So this could go another 3 weeks before they join their teams.
Yeah, that's going to be, something. Because you're looking at what? June 9th would be Game 3?
Yeah.
And who's going to take,
It would mean that already a month and a half of MLL has been going on, field lacrosse. And we're already going to be into week 3 of MSL, which could be as many as 6 games for some of these teams, right?
Right, yeah, and the WLA is just getting underway, which
they're going to be on the same schedule because they're both going to be going by the end of August,
right,
towards their playoffs, right?
Yeah, and one other thing, I just found this out too before we went on the air. An old name by the player name of Ethan Iannucci is returning to the WLA. He is now playing with the Burnaby Lakers.
That's awesome.
The last time he played, he was with Colorado, and they had the shirts out, Fear the Beard. I haven't seen an updated picture of him yet, but if he still has that beard and it was still growing, I could only imagine how the length of that beard right now. But Teddy Jenner reported that up on Twitter a little while ago, that Nooch is back. He's in the WLA playing with the Burnaby Lakers. Now, the big question is, does that mean he may be back in the NLL? For those who really don't remember Ethan Iannucci, he broke the record of 71 goals. He scored 71 goals in a season back a few years ago when he played for the...
And then he's had a couple of years to relax.
Yes. So, now, my question is this. If he comes back to the NLL, no doubt in my mind, if he has any thought of coming back to the NLL, I'm pretty sure maybe Paul Day is taking a look at him. He was well liked in Philly. He was a hell of a sniper. When he played here. Would you, if whether it be Philly or Toronto or Rochester or Buffalo or anybody, would you take a look at him, give him another shot?
I would. Why not? It doesn't cost you anything to take a look.
Right.
And if there is something still there in the tank, why not?
Yeah.
Under a 1-year contract.
Yeah.
If there isn't, you tried.
Yeah.
No loss.
Yeah, give him that 1-year deal because he ran into problems. If you remember a few years ago when he was with Philadelphia, he tore apart his ACL. And when he came back, supposedly it was healed and everything was going right. All of a sudden, first game back, he's off the floor again halfway through. And something happened where the ligament, from what I understand, just completely disappeared.
That's crazy.
It was just gone. And they had to give him a synthetic ACL. Synthetic ligament.
Yeah, I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah. Yeah, because something happened to the ligament and just... Yeah, I think they tried a cadaver ligament and that didn't take or whatever, but I know there was like a synthetic ligament that they put in for him. So...
If he's up and about and playing again, well, obviously this one worked.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to know why he stepped away. I mean, there's a few players out there I would like to know, what happened, what are you doing now? I mean,
Well, simply put, they don't make $1 gazillion like a hockey player.
Right. I mean, you didn't...
So they have to actually get on with life and have jobs that sometimes interfere with the seasons.
Right. I know Nooch had a child. I know that. And I know from speaking with Jerry Van Beek, Rob is working full time on the tugboats out in Langley. And he's very happy, doing his work. But players like, I'll bring a name up, Sean Greenhall, played for the Wings, played for Buffalo. After the one season ended, it's like, you don't know where he is. He just like distanced himself completely from the game. You don't hear anything, about him.
Yeah.
It just, because people have asked me, because I was one of his biggest fans when he played the game. Oh, have you heard from him? Have you? No, I have. You have no idea. And a lot of these guys keep to themselves. But I'm glad to see Nooch back in playing with Burnaby. Much rather see him play for Langley, but he's playing for the Burnaby Lakers in the WLA. So hey, who knows? Maybe he comes back to an NLL team. Maybe he comes back to Colorado or Calgary or maybe San Diego. Who knows? Somebody might offer him, a contract. Maybe he wants to stay out west. So we'll see what happens there. But like I said, he's now back in the mix now. I know Paul Day has been making his rounds during the season, doing some color commentating on some games. I guess you could call that scouting some players.
Well, of course, and he's going to be doing a lot more of that in the summertime, I'm sure too.
Oh yeah, and no doubt, bring Corey Small over, and no doubt he's going to take a good look at him. Things like that, and see what's going to happen there. I mean, we still have the teams have to release. There's not a date yet on when that's going to happen. Their unprotected roster, who they're going to protect, who they're not going to protect. Free agency list that starts in about 35 weeks. It'll start on July 1st. So that's when everybody gets in the mix. Philly, San Diego, everybody. Coin flip. Then you have to wait till July 1st to talk to free agents, and then for some reason, I don't know why, but July 16th is sticking into my head for some reason, and I don't know if that's a date that I saw for the expansion draft. I have no idea, but for some reason, July 16th is popping in, and that's midweek. That I believe is like a Tuesday or a Wednesday.
Right. Well, the league isn't going to say anything about that until the playoffs are done. They don't want anything to take away from
it. No.
Their grand marquee, right?
Right. Yeah, and I don't blame them, whatsoever. But no doubt that it'll be done via conference call, and like I said in the past, if it was me, I win the coin flip. I would defer number one and take the first overall pick in the NLL entry draft, because regardless of who's out there, if you see the name of Zach Greer or somebody else, big name out in the West, that's where they're going to want to stay. Like Zach Greer lives and works out in California, so no doubt he wants, if he's left unprotected, he's going to want San Diego to take him. He won't come out to Philly. Philly would have to do some kind of a trade, in that case. So, you're going to know who you're going to want from the East. You take that, and you just go ahead and you take the number one in the entry draft, because you'll get a good look with there being 5 combines before the draft. Now that's going to be, I think, kind of interesting. Instead of just having the one combine, there's going to be 5 of them. Or I should say 4 additional to the one in Toronto. Now, what do you think of that? You think that they're all, like most of these players, the top 10 players will say, are going to go to every single one, or are they going to be...
Because I think the reason why it's set up this way is so they don't have to travel all over the place.
Right.
I think you're going to see maybe guys who maybe didn't think they performed that well in the one get to the other one. But guys who have a name and guys who are already being, how should I put it? Teams are already knocking on their door. I don't think so. I think they're just going to get everything done, seen, and wait for the draft.
Do you think it's more likely that you'll see more of them show up in San Diego and Philly than you will anywhere else, other than Toronto?
I think in any of the main cities you're going to see it. Like Dallas, you're probably going to see it too.
Yeah, really?
Because again, with the Rattlers playing out there and interest perked up again, I think that Dallas is going to get a lot of people there, because they've done a really good job of bringing the whole thing to life.
Yeah.
So I think the league did it smart. I think all of the places are going to be strong places to have these combines. And again, this way, if you're in the southern states, you don't have to travel all the way up across into Toronto. You can be seen in Dallas, or you can be seen in San Diego.
Yeah.
You don't have to travel cross country either.
Right.
If you're in the middle part, or if you're in the eastern part, Philadelphia is there for you. So it works out very well. I think they've used their brains in this.
Yeah, which is something that hasn't been done
in a long, long time. I know. But I say this also might make these, because you're not going to have everybody in one combine, you're going to get players that may not have gotten a look get looks. Because instead of having 200 players, you may only have 50 players. And they're all going to get the attention of everybody.
Right.
So if you happen to have a really good day, that may be your ticket.
Now, you think players like, we'll say Matt Rambo, Dylan Malloy, Cole Schaefer, who was drafted last year by Calgary but didn't make the cut. He was released by Calgary during training camp and then released by Vancouver a week later. Do you think they show up at one of these camps, or 2 or 3 of them, and try to get their names back into the mix here. I mean, granted, they could be signed as free agents because they were once drafted. They were, drafted. So, do you think they go there to sharpen up their skills and to get, for coaches and teams to get a look?
Sure, I think so.
I mean, I would love to see Rambo in Philadelphia. Watch him play with University of Maryland. The kid's a beast. Yeah, it's just a matter of, can he do the indoor game? Cole Schaefer. Hopefully he used, this year off to get his speed, get a little quicker, a little stronger.
Well, I think both guys are, this was their first real foray into box. So I think now they know what to expect. And they can train accordingly without interfering in their field careers.
Yeah, well, Cole was playing for Langley last season.
Yeah.
And he did pretty well. I think it was just a matter of, product of the numbers. And that's why we had the expansion, because you have so many players out there. You have such a talent pool out there right now that 9 teams is just too little. You could look at last year the players that were released that didn't make the cut. You could have easily made another full squad or two out of them. Look at players like our friend Bill O'Brien. He got released by New England, still kept at it, and boom, he signed in Buffalo. Now he's a free agent. And what is he doing right now? Still out there training. Getting ready for next season. Playing with the Onondaga Redhawks in the Can-Am League. So he's sharpening up his game. And who knows, maybe Buffalo re-signs him for next year, or he's a free agent and he gets signed by somebody else. But that's, you just look and see what's out there. Billy D. Smith, he was let go by Buffalo. He got picked up by Rochester. They could use somebody like that. So it's going to be interesting to see these combines. It'll be the first time I'm at one to see what's involved in it all. And the thing is, right after the Philadelphia one, that following weekend is the one up in Toronto at the track. So that's why I'm kind of curious to see who shows up to the one in Philly as opposed to the one in Toronto. It's a week later. It'll be the last one prior to the draft, and I'm thinking that a lot of players would want to put their best foot forward if they're going to be at the one in Toronto also. So I don't know what you'll see as it goes down the line, but like you said, it's going to give these other cities a look at the indoor lacrosse game. San Diego, to give them the first look altogether, seeing it live. Langley, they know about the indoor game, and you got Dallas, and it just has as you mentioned, the Rattlers. Then you have you're going to have it back in Philadelphia again at the Wings training facility, which is actually in Voorhees, New Jersey. Basically over the bridge and down the road. So it's a hop, skip, and a jump, so to speak. And then obviously at the track where the draft will actually happen. Gary, we mentioned that with the expansion draft, each team can only lose a maximum of 2 players each. There are no pullbacks, as we said before. So when you lose a player, you can't take another player off the list. So both Philly and San Diego will have 9 players there. When the free agency period starts, they could sign whoever they want, basically at that time. And then draft day, each team, San Diego and Philly, will pick up at least another 10 players. In the first and second rounds, they pick 1 and 2, and also at the last 2 picks also. So they have the first 2 picks of the first round and second round, and the bottom 2 picks of those 2 rounds. and then rounds 3 through 6, they just pick 1 and 2, and that's it. That's how it's going to be. So in the first 2 rounds, they have 2 picks each in those rounds, and then whatever trades they do. So it's going to be kind of interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what Georgia does this year with them, doing their trades and only signing players for 1 year. But our game picks, Gary. Saskatchewan, Rochester. We talked about the goaltending. We talked about the transition game, face-offs, the offense, the depth. Who are you going with in game 1?
I look at it always when it's a close game, you go with the home team, and I have no reason to bet against Saskatchewan, so I am going with the Rush in this game. I are
Canadian. I agree with you wholeheartedly on the whole entire thing, but the one thing that still stays in the back of my head, and yes, I know playoffs are a different animal. Rochester beat them twice, once there, once at home. They're rested. I give the edge in goaltending, even though the numbers don't show it. It's only half a goal off. I give the edge to Matt Vince in the goaltending department. I'm going Rochester in this game. I just think that they could pull off the upset in game 1. Game 2 rolls around, different story. I don't know. Got to see how they do it. But I mean, I don't know. This is something where you could flip a coin 100 times, and it could fall 50-50 in this game. This is going to be one of those games that is going to come down to the final shot. And both these teams, I'm pretty sure, are going to be told, stay out of the penalty box, nothing stupid. Both teams are going to be told, watch the transition. You mentioned Jeff Cornwall, okay? Speed demon out there on transition. He scored the game winner in the One Cup final, and that was on transition, on the break. Rochester has it the same way. You have Scott Campbell who can do it. You got Graham Hossack as well. So, you're going to have the Hossack boys going at each other, against each other, I'll say, but not on floor at the same time. They both play defense. We mentioned the question mark, whether or not Dan Dawson dresses. If he don't do this first game, we doubt we'll see him in the second. This is going to be one for the ages, I think, Gary. I really do. I mean, will I be disappointed if Rochester loses this game? Yeah, but I'm not going to be really upset because it can go either way. It really can. I mean, it's just so much is there, out there on the line. Both these teams have been there before. Rochester has beaten the Rush in the Champions Cup back in 2012. So that's another edge they have. So, of course, that was only a 1-game series at the time. I guess we just have to see, what happens. That's tomorrow night, 9:30 is game time, and that you know what? Real quick, before we end this, the NLL has the keys to the game, and Andy McNamara and Brian Shanahan did their podcast on it, and you have to listen to the whole thing. Yeah, they got Jeremy Thompson. You mentioned this, 53.9% of the draws, second loose balls. Jake Withers. We talked about Evan Kirk and Matt Vince. We both we mentioned the same thing. He's not a 3-time NL champion and 5-time goaltender of the year for nothing. And Evan Kirk, he has 12 wins. It's first overall and second in goals against. It's going to be a tough game. Best of luck to both teams. And then, Gary, next week, there will not be a podcast because we will be live. We'll be having some fun in Rochester with the Saskatchewan Rush fans. Again, word out there to Rush Nation. Come to the Stock Exchange, the restaurant, bar, food, drink. It's just a great time, and it's walking distance to the Blue Cross Arena. And who knows, Gary? We may see that cup be hoisted. We may not, but hopefully we see the cup one way or the other, because we know it will be in Rochester next weekend. But other than that, that's all I have for this week. Great game coming up. Follow NLL Live on Twitter, NLL TV. Watch the game, championship game, number 1 at the Sastel Center in Saskatchewan. The Rush versus the Nighthawks for the Champions Cup. Gary, I want to thank you for joining me again. I mean, we're coming down to it now.
Always fun talking, Lex, and it's always fun this time of the year, especially when we're so close to the Cup.
Yeah, we're close to the Cup, and for people in Philly and in San Diego, as we get closer to the Cup, and that means we get closer to our teams coming back. So there's going to be a lot of things going on coming up. Next week we'll probably go through Game 1, look at Game 2, and then Gary will start talking about the free agent list, the unprotected list. So we're going to have a lot to talk about as the weeks go on. So, for Gary Grube at laxphilly.com, I'm Rocco Granato at InlandLacrosseWeTrust.com. Again, join our Facebook page, Behind the Bench. That will be the only way you will be able to see the show next week. We will be live on our Facebook page doing the show with a couple guests from Saskatchewan. So, tune in and let us know what you think. Send us some messages and what have you, and we're going to have a great old time in Rochester. Gary, I will see you there next Saturday.
Yes, I will be there with bells on. Stuff on, or I don't have any Nighthawk stuff. I'm going to have to take a look to sign a golf shirt from there.
Yeah, but bring a Rush hat or a Rush shirt, whatever you have, so we can have the table all set up with both, because I have a couple Rochester hats, Rochester jerseys. We have them hanging around for a little effect, so to speak.
Alrighty.
All right, everybody. For Gary Grube at Lax Philly, I'm Rocco Granato from InlandLacrosseWeTrust.com. Have a great weekend. Everybody up in Canada, belated Happy Victoria Day. Everybody here in the States, enjoy your
Veterans Day from us here in Canada.
Yes. Enjoy Memorial Day. Let's not forget as to why we celebrate Memorial Day here in the States. For our veterans who have served to protect this country, I thank you.
That's it. You see one, you say thank you.
Yes, those 8 letters, Gary, believe it or not, mean so much.
Mm-hmm.
Means so much. So, everybody take care. Have a great weekend. Don't drink and drive. We want to have you around for years to come. Take care, everybody.
Wanna get right?